In the dimly lit waiting room of Dr. Thompson's medical practice, time seemed to stretch endlessly. The air hung heavy with the mingled sense of antiseptic and anxiety, as patients fidgeted nervously in their seats, clutching tattered magazines and casting wary glances at the clock. Among them sat Karen, her patience wearing thin like a frayed thread on a well-worn garment. Karen sat in the corner, her leg bouncing impatiently, her eyes fixed on the clock mounted high upon the wall. With each tick of the second hand, her agitation grew, like a storm brewing on the horizon. She had been waiting for what felt like an eternity, her mind a whirlwind of worry and frustration. Glancing around the room, Karen noticed the other patients, their faces etched with varying degrees of discomfort and apprehension. Some whispered in hushed tones, exchanging tales of ailments and treatments, while others sat in stoic silence, lost in their own thoughts. But Karen paid them no mind. Her focus was singular, her obsession absolute. Finally, unable to contain her mounting anxiety any longer, Karen rose from her seat with a huff, her heels clicking sharply against the linoleum floor. With determined strides, she marched towards the reception desk, her expression a mask of indignation. "Excuse me," she snapped, her voice a sharp blade slicing through the thickened atmosphere of the waiting room, each syllable carrying the weight of her mounting impatience. "I've been waiting here for over an hour. This is unacceptable." Her words, like a sudden gust of wind in the desert, disrupted the uneasy calm that had settled over the room, stirring the air with an intensity that could not be ignored. The other patients, ensnared in the web of their own anxieties, turned their heads to regard her with a mixture of surprise and apprehension, as if awakening from a collective trance. Yet, despite the palpable tension that hung in the air, she remained undeterred, her resolve unyielding in the face of adversity. The receptionist, a young woman with tired eyes and a forced smile, looked up from her computer screen, her brow furrowing in mild surprise. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she replied, her tone apologetic. "Dr. Thompson is running a bit behind schedule today. I assure you, he'll see you as soon as he can." Karen was having none of it. Her words cut through the air like a cry in the wilderness, her voice a clarion call of urgency amidst the stagnant air of the waiting room. "I don't care about your excuses," she retorted, her tone laced with a steely resolve that brooked no argument. "I demand to see the doctor immediately. My health is at stake here." Each word reverberated with a sense of purpose, echoing off the sterile walls of the room and reverberating in the ears of those who dared to listen. The other patients, caught in the crossfire of her righteous indignation, shifted uneasily in their seats, their eyes darting nervously between Karen and the impassive receptionist. But Karen paid them no mind. Her focus was singular, her determination unyielding. For in that moment, she was not merely a patient, but a force to be reckoned with, a harbinger of change in a world plagued by inertia. The receptionist sighed, her patience wearing thin. "I understand your concern, ma'am, but there are other patients ahead of you who also need to be seen." Karen would not be swayed. With a stubbornness born of desperation, she pounded her fist against the countertop, causing a nearby stack of forms to topple to the floor. "I don't care about them," she declared, her voice trembling with righteous fury. "I need to see the doctor now." As Karen's outburst reverberated through the waiting room, the other patients looked on in a mixture of shock and discomfort. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of how to react. However, Karen paid them no mind. Her focus was singular, her determination unyielding. Meanwhile, behind the closed door of his office, Dr. Thompson sat at his desk, his brow furrowed in concern as he reviewed the medical charts spread out before him. He was acutely aware of the commotion brewing in the waiting room, the raised voices and clattering footsteps echoing through the thin walls. Sighing heavily, Dr. Thompson pushed himself away from his desk and rose to his feet, his lab coat rustling softly as he moved. With a sense of resignation, he made his way to the door, steeling himself for the confrontation that awaited him on the other side. As he stepped into the waiting room, Dr. Thompson was met with a scene of chaos and confusion. Karen stood at the center of the room, her face flushed with anger, while the other patients looked on in varying degrees of shock and dismay. "Karen," Dr. Thompson said, his voice calm but firm. "What seems to be the problem?" Karen turned to face him, her eyes blazing with intensity. "I've been waiting here for over an hour," she exclaimed, her voice trembling with emotion. "I demand to see you immediately. My health is at stake." Dr. Thompson sighed, his shoulders sagging with exhaustion. "I understand your concern, Karen, But you need to understand that there are other patients ahead of you who also need my attention. Karen would not be deterred. With a steely resolve, she fixed Dr. Thompson with a withering glare. I don't care about them, she declared. I need to see you now. Dr. Thompson pinched the bridge of his nose wearily, his patience wearing thin. Karen, please, he said, his voice tinged with exasperation. I'll see you as soon as I can, but you need to wait your turn like everyone else. Karen's departure from the waiting room echoed with the solemnity of a decision made in the heat of battle, each step a testament to her unwavering resolve. With a defiant toss of her head, she turned on her heel, her movements imbued with a sense of purpose that bordered on the prophetic. As she stormed out, the air crackled with the intensity of her departure, leaving behind a wake of uncertainty and disquiet. The other patients, like voyeurs to an unfolding drama, watched in silent astonishment, their faces betraying a mixture of awe and apprehension. Yet, amidst the turmoil, Karen remained steadfast, her determination a beacon of defiance in a sea of conformity. And as she disappeared through the threshold, her absence lingered like a specter, a reminder of the turbulent currents that flowed beneath the surface of the seemingly mundane. As the door slammed shut behind her, the other patients exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of what to make of the spectacle they had just witnessed. But Dr. Thompson simply shook his head wearily, resigned to the fact that some battles were not worth fighting. And so, amidst the quiet hum of fluorescent lights and the soft murmur of whispered conversations, the waiting room returned to its previous state of uneasy calm, the incident already fading into the recesses of memory. But for Karen, the echoes of her outburst would linger long after she had left the confines of Dr. Thompson's office, a stark reminder of the fragility of patience and the consequences of unchecked hysteria. Amidst the vast expanse of Tourmaline Park, where emerald lawns stretched beneath the ancient oak's canopy, Karen commenced her daily jog. Her footfalls resonated with purpose against the earth, each step a testament to her unwavering resolve. The morning sun bestowed its radiant touch upon the verdant foliage, imbuing the landscape with an otherworldly luminescence. As Karen rounded a bend in the winding trail, her eyes fell upon a scene that ignited a smoldering fury within her chest. Spread across the velvety grass like lazy sunbathers were clusters of people, their laughter and chatter cutting through the tranquil ambiance of the park. Picnic blankets lay strewn haphazardly, adorned with baskets brimming with delicacies and bottles of chilled wine. Her pulse quickened, and her brows knitted together in a scowl as she beheld this blatant disregard for the sanctity of the park. How dare they desecrate this sacred space with their frivolous indulgence? Anger surged through her veins like wildfire, fueling an unyielding resolve to confront these interlopers. With determined strides, Karen marched toward the offenders, her voice rising in a crescendo of indignation. You have no right to be here, she bellowed, her words a thunderclap amidst the serene backdrop of nature. This is not your private playground. You're trespassing. Startled by the sudden outburst, the lounging revelers turned to face Karen, their expressions a mixture of confusion and alarm. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as they exchanged bewildered glances, unsure of how to respond to this unexpected tirade. Undeterred by their incredulity, Karen continued her righteous crusade, her voice ringing out like a clarion call for justice. Leave at once. This park belongs to everyone, not just to you and your selfish desires. The park denizens exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of how to diffuse the escalating confrontation. Some attempted to placate Karen with soothing words, while others scrambled to gather their belongings in a frantic bid to appease her wrath. Amidst the chaos, the faint sound of approaching footsteps heralded the arrival of the park rangers, their authoritative presence cutting through the tension like a blade through silk. Clad in their uniform of khaki and olive green, they strode forward with measured steps, their faces etched with a mix of concern and resolve. Is there a problem here, ma'am? One of the rangers inquired, his voice calm yet firm as he addressed Karen. Turning her fiery gaze toward the newcomers, Karen squared her shoulders, her resolve unyielding in the face of authority. Yes, there's a problem, she declared, her voice a steely rasp. These people are trespassing on public property, and I demand that you remove them immediately. The rangers exchanged a knowing glance, understanding the delicate nature of the situation they now found themselves in. With practiced ease, they began to diffuse the tension, employing a blend of diplomacy and assertiveness to restore order to the park. Ma'am, I understand your concerns, the lead ranger replied, his tone measured and empathetic. But this park is open to all members of the public, provided they adhere to the rules and regulations governing its use. Karen bristled at the ranger's words, her frustration reaching a boiling point as she struggled to reconcile her sense of righteousness with the reality of the situation. How could they allow these intruders to defile the sanctity of the park with their careless disregard for its pristine beauty? Sensing Karen's mounting agitation, the rangers moved swiftly to de-escalate the situation, offering assurances and explanations in an effort to assuage her concerns. Slowly but surely, the tension began to ebb away, replaced by a sense of weary resignation as the park denizens dispersed, their impromptu gathering coming to an abrupt end. As the final interlopers vanished into the dappled shadows of the forest, Karen stood amidst the park's desolation, her chest heaving with the futile exertion of her indignation. The confrontation had ended, but not without its toll, a bitter defeat that stained her spirit with the acrid taste of failure. In the wake of the park predicament, Karen found herself ensnared within a vortex of despair and regret. Anger gave way to despair, righteousness crumbling beneath the weight of her shattered ideals. Her fervor had led her astray, blind to the grim reality that now unfolded before her like a yawning abyss. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting its final, mournful glow across the desolate landscape of Tourmaline Park, Karen found no solace in the oppressive silence that enveloped her. In the fading light of day, she was forced to retreat, her once cherished sanctuary now tainted by the bitter sting of defeat. For within the heart of Tourmaline Park, amidst the mournful wails of the whispering trees and the mocking dance of the encroaching shadows, the true test of character revealed itself in the harsh truth that strength of conviction alone was not enough. And though the echoes of her outburst would fade with time, the bitter lessons learned amidst the desolate embrace of nature would haunt her for eternity. Against the bustling chaos of a city's heart, where the rhythm of life thrummed against the unforgiving asphalt, Karen's brazen disregard for societal norms stood as a testament to her unyielding entitlement. Her sleek sedan occupied not one, but two coveted parking spaces in a crowded lot, each line of demarcation a mere suggestion to her entitled sensibilities. Ignoring the exasperated glances and muttered curses of nearby drivers, she sauntered away from her vehicle, the emblem of her self-importance gleaming beneath the harsh glow of the streetlights. As the chaos of the lot swirled around her, a sense of entitlement radiated from Karen like an aura, shielding her from the inconvenience of common courtesy. But such brazen disregard for the social contract could not go unchallenged forever. Enter the manager, a figure of authority unyielding in the face of Karen's entitled antics. "Excuse me, ma'am," he ventured, his voice tinged with a hint of trepidation, "you can't park like that. You're taking up 2 spaces. Karen's response was immediate, her tone dripping with disdain as she dismissed his concerns with a wave of her hand. "I know my rights," she declared haughtily, "and I'm entitled to as much space as I need. Find another spot if it bothers you so much." The manager, unbowed by Karen's brazen display of entitlement, stood his ground. "I'm afraid that's not how it works," he insisted, his patience wearing thin. "You'll need to move your car or face the consequences." A flicker of indignation danced across Karen's features, her entitlement morphing into righteous anger at the audacity of this mere store manager. "You have no idea who I am," she spat, her voice rising in pitch. "I know the owner of this establishment, and I'll have you fired for this insolence." The manager's resolve solidified, his expression steely as he issued his ultimatum. "I've had enough of your behavior. Move your car, or it will be towed." Incensed beyond reason, Karen's entitlement reached its zenith, culminating in a swift and resounding slap across the manager's cheek. Shocked silence descended upon the parking lot as onlookers gasped in disbelief at the brazen act of aggression. Summoned by the commotion, the wail of sirens pierced the air as law enforcement arrived on the scene. Security footage, a damning testament to Karen's entitled tantrum, was reviewed with meticulous scrutiny, sealing her fate in the eyes of the law. With a grim sense of inevitability, Karen found herself in handcuffs, her protests falling on deaf ears as she was escorted away from the scene of her downfall. And so, justice was served, not with a bang, but with the quiet hum of a tow truck's engine as it whisked away the symbol of Karen's entitlement, leaving nothing but the echoes of her reckoning in its wake.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.